Today we have a very special guest. Veerle is a life coach.
I've lived in Spain, Cambodia and Australia. We had to move back to the Netherlands. I'm sure I'm not the only one going through sort of left our home base behind a new life abroad.
Shifting your mindset. Is it something that actually can take a lot of time?
It's sort of, the tools are often simple, challenging to put it into practice. This is going to help me get where I want.
Hi everybody, my name is Juan Carlos. Welcome back to another episode and very important episode from Grow Hack Lives. A segment where we are aiming to share all the great knowledge that a founder, CEO, a C-level manager can obtain in order to get the best of their vision, their mission, their team, their life itself. Today we have a very special guest, Veerle. Veerle is a life coach. And he's a life coach for expats, for nomads as well. So Veerle, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here.
Super. It's a pleasure for me to have you here. Thank you for being here, for making time for us. Could you tell us, Veerle, a little bit of your background? And how did you become a life coach?
Yes, it's quite a long story, but I will try to keep it short. But it really came from my own personal experiences of living in different countries. I've lived in Spain, Cambodia, and Australia, and every time that I moved somewhere new, I had like different types of challenges, basically. And after like living in Australia, I unexpectedly had to move back to the Netherlands during the pandemic. I had been working there for a few years and I lost my job and my visa. And suddenly I was back in the Netherlands where I'm from. And I was in complete shock. And I was like, actually, this is maybe even the most challenging move that I had. Like, I thought always moving to another country that is new to me was challenging. But then moving back to a country that I already knew was even the biggest challenge, because I didn't really feel like home, even though I expected that. So that's sort of how my journey started, with looking into, okay, but then if I don't feel at home here, like what does home mean to me? So I really dove into like my personal growth. Then I decided to make a big shift and leave my corporate work behind. I used to work as an immigration lawyer for years. And I changed into becoming a coach, because what I felt was like, I'm sure I'm not the only one going through those challenges. Not only like the challenge of, how can I feel at home, but also previous challenges that I had. For example, when I moved to Spain, I had like the challenge with the language barrier. I didn't speak Spanish at all in the beginning, and no one around me spoke English. And I was like, okay, how am I going to, survive here? So that really challenged me, and I had to dive deep into learning the language as fast as I could. So it was a challenge in the beginning, but afterwards I made it work. And in Cambodia, for example, I also had like the culture shock and really adjusting to a completely different lifestyle that I was used to, while I was also working in a challenging job. I did an internship there with the United Nations, which was very interesting, but also like, challenging at the same time.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Australia, I was also like finding the balance between my demanding job, but also how can I enjoy my experience abroad here, because I was like working all the time and I didn't really give myself the space to, meet new people and explore. So after a few months, I was like so overwhelmed that I thought, okay, I have to do this in a different way, because this is not sustainable. So sort of, all those different challenges made me think, okay, I've been working with expats or in the expat industry for so many years, but I never saw someone who could actually guide me through those challenges. There was always so much support in, the practical stuff that I needed to arrange, like my visa or your taxes or, shipment of your goods, all of those things, which are of course also important. But I didn't find any support in those like sort of more mental and emotional challenges that you're going through. And that's sort of like my whole journey And then coming back to the Netherlands, that's what gave me this idea that I'm like, well, if I can find someone, then I become that person that I wish I had before. So that's how it all started. And yeah, now we're a few years later, and yeah, I really enjoy what I'm doing now and helping expats and nomads, or basically anyone who sort of left their home base behind and creates a new life abroad. Yeah, really helping them. It's really rewarding to see how you can, when you shift your mindset and how you know your whole perspective, basically how that can have such a big impact on how you experience your new life abroad. And it's so much more beyond the practical stuff.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's a bit of a my background story in that.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I mean, indeed, shifting your mindset. How do you see that actually, especially since you have seen it from so many entrepreneurs that you have been working? Is it easy? Is it hard? Is it something that actually can take a lot of time?
It doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it's sort of, the tools are often simple, but it can be challenging to put it into practice. So what I mean is, like, you know, in theory you think, oh, this sounds really easy, but then actually to do it and to make those shifts, that really can take some practice. So it really depends on the person how long that will take. But just to give you sort of a more practical example of what a mindset shift would be, is, for example, really getting the awareness of how you talk to yourself. And are you really limiting yourself actually by the thoughts you have, or the words you speak, or are those thoughts and words empowering you? And that on paper sounds really simple. It's like, okay, then I just think a bit more positive and then I will be fine. But in practice it doesn't really work like that, because we have this ongoing self-talk all the time, and most of it is you're not even conscious about it, what you tell yourself. And really getting that awareness first is usually the first step to really make that shift, and becoming aware of, like, oh, what am I actually telling myself? Is this a useful thought, and is this going to help me get where I want, or is this actually limiting me? For example, I spoke to one of my clients last week, and he was preparing his move abroad, and I was asking how he was doing, and he was like, well, actually I'm terrified. And I was like, why, what's going on? Because it sounded like he had prepared everything, he was ready. So, you know, on paper, again, it looked all, you know, ready and perfect. But he was like, yeah, just this fear of the unknown, and like not really knowing what to expect. And he kept on sort of telling himself, like, all the worst case scenarios basically that could happen, like, oh, what if I don't meet new friends, or what if I get lost, or just don't feel connected because I don't speak the language. And, you know, all those fears came up. So in when something like that happens, it's really powerful when you can work on your mindset and make those shifts, so that you can actually empower yourself and go from those worst case scenarios to more positive scenarios, because nothing has happened yet, it's still in the future. So sometimes we can get so stuck in what might happen or not in the future, that we forget to be in the present moment, and just take it one step at a time, and really ground ourselves and be like in the moment right now, and do the things that we can control, so that, like, whenever something comes up in the future, we can deal with it, whatever comes up. But worrying about it before just adds so much additional pressure. So with those type of things, it can really be really helpful to focus on what you're telling yourself.
Exactly. I lived it myself. I think actually that we tend to suffer too much for things that actually haven't not even happened yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that suffering is not needed, but it happens often, because it's also how we are wired as human beings, to focus on, like, the negative scenarios first. It's sort of a protection mechanism, because especially when you do something big like moving countries, it's so out of your comfort zone. So your protection mechanism is like, oh no, this is scary, stay where you are. So it comes up with all, like, scenarios for you sort of to change your mind, like, okay, I'm going to stay, I'm not going to take this step. So to get through that and to really change that so that you can embrace those changes and be like, okay, whatever happens, happens, but I'm going to go for it anyway, and really changing your perspective. It makes it so less stressful and just easier for yourself to go through that transition process.
Wow. Yeah, indeed. So this is something actually certainly happens to a lot of in entrepreneurs mostly, in your mind, in your opinion.
I don't only work with entrepreneurs, so it's a mix. There are also a lot of people who move like for a job, for example. But I think in my own experience as well as an entrepreneur, it can add even additional pressure because you have maybe extra uncertainties as well. Like when you have a job that's sort of like some stability, and as an entrepreneur, you have more the ups and downs. You really have to think about like, okay, where are your clients coming from? Or it's not like a fixed paycheck you receive every month as in a job. So it sometimes can add that extra pressure. And for example, I see that often when I work with digital nomads who are like combining the remote work and the traveling, and that can sometimes add additional pressure because then they're like, well, I want to enjoy my travels, but I also need to work because I need to get my income, right? It's not like a fixed job. So it has ups and downs. It always is a flow. So that sort of financial stability that sometimes is missing then in that scenario, that can add some extra stress as well. So also going back there and grounding yourself can be really a helpful tool to be more in the present and be like, okay, what is actually going on here, and is this pressure that I put on myself, is it actually useful or is it limiting me? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I completely agree. I think actually, we tend to see it, especially us now, indeed, since coronavirus, how things have changed with traveling and work as well.
Yeah.
So if I may ask, so as a life coach, have you seen also some common positivity, some common strategies that actually people are doing right at this moment that we should keep doing?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I feel like, especially with the people I work with, is really having that mindset of exploring, discovering new parts of yourself, but also discovering new parts of the world. Like this combination of using travel or moving to another country for your personal growth. I think that's a really empowering and positive mindset to have, to be like, okay, there's more out there, and I feel like I have more potential. How can I really embrace those changes and make the most out of it? So I see, and that's also why like the digital nomads movement, so to say, is like booming, because more and more people are like, I want a different lifestyle. I want to live a life that is not just about work, but that I can also travel, and it's not about being in this 9 to 5 schedule, but sometimes it's not even the location flexibility, but also the time flexibility, like really working in a way that works for you, a schedule that really energizes you and makes you be the most productive as you can be, and then combining that with traveling or living in a new place. I think that's a really cool development that we see right now. So that's, for me, it's like one of the most positive things I feel like at the moment, that so many people are really reevaluating their lifestyle and really thinking about what is important to me in my life and how can I really make that happen.
Right, exactly. I think also that sense of curiosity that suddenly arises. Probably, maybe even it's also because of the so much ability, so much information out there now available for everyone. So we can go to YouTube now actually and learn from anything
Exactly.
that we had before. Indeed, I completely agree. Is this sense of connection as well that we have sharing with the world. what is
Yeah.
working about. Do you see it also that, let's say, for example, when you have C-level people, CEOs, CMOs, COOs, something that even happened to me as well, being the CEO of a large company, where suddenly I decided that this life, this salary, this office, this whole pressure is not really what I wanted, and a lot of people are looking for that change. If I may ask from that perspective, what do you see actually a person that is in that situation where they are completely they seem to reach everything that they thought they had, but suddenly that is not what is making them really happy. What do you think actually they could start doing in that moment? Some tips that you could share with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that question because I feel like a lot of people are in that situation that they are realizing like, oh, I've been in this job for so long, but does this actually make me happy? So I think a first step to take is to really evaluate your life and really think about, okay, but so clearly there's something missing, but what is it? So really to dive deep into that to figure out like, okay, but if this is not it, then what am I looking for? And just to write everything down that comes up. And like sort of an exercise that can help with that is really to write down like, okay, what are actually the experiences that I want to have in my life? And just, writing down anything like, dreaming big, but just not without any judgment or limitations, just writing down like, okay, what are the experiences that I want to have? Then also thinking like, okay, if I want to experience this, how would I like to grow as a person? And then from there also thinking about like, okay, so if this is what I want to experience, this is how I would like to grow, then how can I combine this with something that I'm passionate about, helping, like contributing, because that's for us as human beings one of the things that really make a difference into living a life with meaning, like doing something that it's not just for us but also helps the people around us. So if you combine those elements and really write down whatever comes up, it can give you some clarity about your purpose or your meaning, like what do you want to do in your life, like what would your next step look like. And maybe then you find out that it's not necessarily your job that you're not happy with, maybe it's the lifestyle around it, or maybe you're actually missing something in your personal life. Or yeah, it can come up that you're like, no, this career was just influenced maybe by like a certain status that I was going for, or like the money, but that's not really deep down what lights me up. Like you're looking for more meaning. So that's a really powerful exercise, I would think, as a first step to really dive deep and think about that for yourself. Like, okay, what are the things that really make a difference in my life, and can I just sort of remove everything that is not really making me happy? And it's, of course, it's not like from one thing to another, like a shift right away, but it's a good first step to actually stop for a moment and think about that. Because often we just keep on going, and before we know, like a few years more have passed and we're still in the same job, and we're still like, yeah, this is not it, but it's comfortable, like, again, about changing and stepping out of your comfort zone. In that sense, it can feel like a big step. So just really, first of all, taking that moment to think about what you actually would like to experience in your life can be a great first step. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful indeed. As indeed, and at the end, uh, yes, we only have one life in a way, in a perspective, and we can get the best out of it. And I think also even what I see as well is like the sense of rediscovering yourself is something interesting to experience as well. Now,
Yeah.
Berlin, I seen actually there are a few questions that we will get also from the people that actually will watch this video. So I'm very interested in actually making a follow-up video with you in the future, so we can actually also discuss the topics actually that are very interesting to discuss with entrepreneurs, with founders, with startup and scale-up owners. So if any of these persons or viewers would like to get in touch with you, Veerle, how could they get in touch with you?
The easiest way would be to visit my website, which is unpackbyveer.com. And so you write unpack by, and then Veer is VEER.com. There are like the different, yeah, you you will put it put it somewhere, yeah, might be easier. And there are different ways to connect with me there, like you can just fill in the contact form or send me an email, but then you have all the information there as well about my services. And of course you can connect with me on social media as well. You can find me there. So I would just say go to my website, and you can find all the information there.
Super. No, thank you very much, Veerle. I think actually that these are some of the steps already that I also will start taking on the sense of what we can actually also share with our team, with our company, with everyone that actually is involved in looking for growth.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Veerle. I wish you a great day, and I look forward to see you soon as well.
Yeah, thank you so much as well.
Thank you very much. And guys, actually, this has been another episode of Growth Hacks Live. I hope actually it helps you a lot to understand actually like the power of having a coach live in your life. I believe actually everyone should have a coach. What do you think actually, Veerle?
Yes, I agree. Even as a coach, we also need to have coaches. So yeah, everyone, it's just so helpful. Like often you don't realize it until you start working with a coach, and you just have those different perspectives, or you find answers that you never had thought about before. So yeah, it's definitely worth to give it a try if you have never worked with a coach before.
I agree, completely. Wonderful. Well, Veerle, thank you very much, and I wish you a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend, and to everyone.
How would I like to grow as a person? Stop for a moment and think about that. Visit my website. You can just fill in the contact form or send me an email, but then you have all the information